So anyway, I really researched Psychos, and then we twisted it into The Woman, which basically it's a love story. It's kind of my view of love on one level, which is, you know, when you were a bachelor and you couldn't get a relationship together at all,
desperate for it. Yeah.
And this is kind of how I think bachelors look at women at a certain point, which is a woman is looking for a man who's willing to kill the most people for her. That's the ideal love that we portray in this love story. And so
he would do anything.
Yeah. And that's what Tammy's all about.
Don't pull that thing, Harry, unless you're willing to use it.
Well, don't worry. I'm just going to make him back down.
Postal workers call me, and they think it's accurate.
Okay.
Everybody's crazy and on edge. And
so that is a testament to
and a lot
your
of people,
research.
Yeah, a lot of people describe after seeing the movie that everybody's crazy in the movie. And ultimately, I guess that's what I'm saying is we are all crazy.
Who's nuts?
And we're all on the verge. I mean, I'm on the verge of being a mass murderer constantly.
Well, there's always that aspect that you're ready to go on a shooting spree.
Yeah.
You woke up.
I mean, in editing,
a couple of phone calls,
in editing,
wife, and you're ready to.
When I was editing Death and Taxes, which is a film you all should try to find and get a copy of, it's a documentary about a North Dakota farmer having a shootout with the IRS. I mean, when I was editing the movie, I was under a lot of stress, and I remember at one point with Tracy and this English editor, Martin Hone, they weren't doing what I wanted in the editing room, and I went into the back bedroom and I brought out my pump riot shotgun and I racked a shell into it. And I sat in a chair just like this. I go, okay, come on, let's work a little harder. And I just sat there holding the shotgun up like this. But as people get to know me, they accept that, you know, that
Well,
they
it
are.
can create a little bit of working tension.
Well, you have to talk with Tracy, the editor, on that.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that.
No, Tracy won't get in this thing. No, he's too busy. He's busy.
Oh,
guy.
he's too busy?
Hey, he's another guy that we gave him his big break. He made it in Hollywood. He's a big-time editor,
and he doesn't want to look back.
won't talk to me. Won't return my phone calls.
Oh,
you know.
I find that hard to believe. Tracy's been watching. When you watch
No,
this,
Tracy was the closest thing to a creative collaborator on my last two movies, Death and Taxes and this. He's the associate producer. He's also one of the screaming memes in the headlines.
I had my gun in the bag, but the bag got too heavy.
Well, and he's hilarious as the clerk.
He's the
when he
clerk
goes,
with the
when he
donuts.
goes to get the stale donuts.
No, no, no. How am I supposed to sell the donuts after you crush them?
So what else do we want to talk about here that people would want to hear about?
I don't know. Oh, I'm sure they'd be interested in.
Don't try to hunt me down in Taos after this, or I'll kill you. All right? I'm talking
down in Mexico?
I'm talking about the DVDs.
Are you?
You people that bought the
another
DVD, we're not giving you your money back. I don't care.
I don't care what you say.
So.
Well, that's again where those insurance claims come in. But let's talk a little bit about from the script, from the page. When you say that you cut out some scenes, do you think they understood this?
Well, we shot the movie in 18 days.
That was pretty quick, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a 6 days out of 7 day off to do laundry.
Right.
3 weeks. Yeah, at lunch, you're ripping pages out of the script and trying to figure out how to bring the story back together because believe it or not, there's a tie-in from one scene to another, and when you rip out a scene, you know, one scene is supposed to transition with a logic into the next.
Best case scenario. But budget to.
A lot of people don't bother with that in Hollywood, though, you know. But I have nothing to do with Hollywood. I am what I call now an embittered filmmaker.
I like the title. Embittered filmmaker.
I just, you know.
We're going to have to get you a little desk label.
You know, it's kind of like.
Embittered filmmaker.
You know, this movie was supposed to be my big break, and Hollywood was supposed to come knocking on my door, and here I am beating the bushes for chump change out in the wilderness. I was willing to do limited partnerships where I put land in with the investors of a movie, and the idiots took so long to raise that money that the land went up in value so far I couldn't afford to keep the land in the deal. So
What are you going to do? I mean, you
Well,
made it this
now
far.
we have the New Mexico Film Fund that we're trying to pilfer. You know,
Putting it lightly.
you know, we are helping Bill Richardson become president of the United States through our
A good
subversive
cause.
efforts. You know,
Subversive efforts.
how much time have we got here? Well, we're.
You want to
we're-
try and wrap it up here, Jeff Jackson?
I think so.
If
You can email us at jeff@taoslandandfilm.com. TAOSLANDANDFILM.com. Give us your feedback, comments. You can probably get a copy of Death and Taxes there too.
of what? Death and taxes.
Death and Taxes.
Death and taxes.
The national focus on private militias in the wake of the Oklahoma City bombing has been a business boon to at least one man. He's a movie maker who turned his cameras on that subject several years ago. He produced a film called Death and Taxes that's now coming off the shelves and heading into theaters. Eyewitness News reporter Mark Coogan has more.
That was the movie that inspired the bombing of the Oklahoma City
As we all
building.
well
you know.
know, yes, as
No,
we
nobody
all know.
knows that, but.
Lisa, long before the radical right was claiming the road to Oklahoma City ran through Waco, Texas and the Idaho Panhandle, it had made a martyr out of a man named Gordon Kahl. Now the Oklahoma City bombing has pushed out of obscurity an LA filmmaker's sympathetic study of this so-called godfather of the militia movement.
I think they wanted me to fill out income tax papers, and I told them nothing doing. I wouldn't.
This man, Gordon Kahl, killed 2 federal marshals in a shootout and in turn was shot and burned to death after a nationwide manhunt 12 years ago. Now, Kahl's story in a documentary called Death and Taxes is back in the news.
We have a movie that's politically incorrect.
The documentary filmmaker is Jeffrey Jackson of Venice. His film presents eerie echoes of claims of government persecution the armed radical right has made following the Oklahoma City terror attack.
Well, Timothy McVeigh had a copy of that in the back of his car when they busted him driving away from
Did he really?
Oklahoma City.
Death
yeah,
and Taxes?
yeah. People were calling me from around the country going, "We heard about Death and Taxes." I go, "What do you mean?" And they go, "We were listening to NPR radio, and they did a report on what was in Timothy McVeigh's car, and he had a copy of the movie Death and Taxes in the back seat." I found out that the federal government really crushed a small farmer over his freedom of speech, over basically going on TV and saying federal income taxes were unconstitutional.
Jackson's rendition of Gordon Kahl is heavy on charges of government overreaction, but treads lightly on Kahl's fanaticism.
Authorities say the prime suspect is a radical survivalist.
For example, when Kahl was a fugitive, he wrote, "We are a conquered and occupied nation, conquered and occupied by Jews who plan to rule the world by destroying Christianity and the white race." It is no accident the film about a far-right fringe martyr returned to theaters tonight outside Detroit.
We've had to expand it to 4 days, and it's kind of taken off and had a life of its own. I've then kind of publicized it as a mini Woodstock event for the Michigan militia.
Filmmaker Jeffrey Jackson's subject matter contains an ironic spin-off to the current calls to investigate the 1993 Waco Branch Davidian standoff. That is, Gordon Kahl was killed in 1983 in Arkansas, and the governor then was Bill Clinton. Live from the newsroom, Mark Coogan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Well, that's a little, you know.
That's an
edgy there.
inspiring movie. You have to
Yes,
be
it
careful
is.
what you watch.
So is there any kind of a wrap-up, or should we say any kind of a warning? Anything you want to tell your audience before they take a look at
This
the
is
film?
meant to be a subversive film. My films are meant to alienate the audience. The best reaction for me is an angry audience viewer, you know.
I got you.
And hopefully you'll come away with something that really irritates you. So shall we cut it?
I think that's
All right. All right. Goodbye.